The following is not a novel, but it is a work of fiction all the same, a fiction based on this author's visualization of Charlemagne. And even though the resulting image does, quite properly, adduce all the available evidence from the period in question, it is nonetheless subjectively formed and coloured. It is impossible nowadays to fathom the depths of a life lived more than 1200 years ago, so the only thing remaining for a writer to fall back on is his own imagination. Not every topic that could have been touched on is touched on. Experts on Charlemagne will no doubt notice these omissions just as surely as critics will consider them failings. Perhaps those same critics will also censure this author for the way he has chosen to approach his subject, although all they would be able to offer would be a different, no less subjective and fragmentary image. An objective portrayal of the great Carolingian ruler is simply not possible. The world, 1200 years before our current era, is an alien landscape barely recognizable to us anymore. Charlemagne lived from 748, a putative birth date, to 814, a definite death date. At that time, Constantinople was not yet called Istanbul. There was no soaring cathedral at Cologne, the cathedral at Bamberg would not be built for another 200 years, and the one at Speyer was an unimposing affair compared with the magnificent edifice that looms over the Rhine there today. In Paris there was no Louvre, while Notre Dame, on the Ile de la Cité, was still an episcopal church of modest proportions. In Venice, engineers had not yet driven oak pilings into the mud of the lagoon to provide firm foundations for St. Mark's Basilica or the magnificent palazzi of the Venetian nobility, and no gondoliers plied their trade on the Grand Canal, serenading their passengers. The Vatican, meanwhile, was nothing more than a hill outside the walls of the Eternal City. It was home to a church built in late antiquity, housing the tomb of the apostolic Prince St. Peter, but not yet a lavish papal palace. Nor did the Holy Roman Empire exist. Whenever there is mention of an empire in the following audiobook, this refers strictly to a territorial entity, not the grand political institution of later centuries. The term is also occasionally used to denote the personal rule of Charlemagne. Europe's populace was spread thin on the ground. Extensive tracts of land did not witness a human presence for weeks or even years on end. Cities that had survived from classical antiquity existed in name only. In many cases, they were full of nothing but ruins. They were not melting pots of immigrants from far-off lands, still less the proud, independent municipalities they became half a millennium later.